Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. Tonight, it is part of our Design Your Life series. Every month we get together and we talk about some of the more practical options and solutions to the discussions that we have here at 52 Living Ideas. Just to give you a little bit of background about this meetup. This meetup we've discussed a number of topics from the Bhagavad Gita to the Gospel of John. We've discussed neuroscience, comprehensivity, Buckminster Fuller, and as well as Lewis Sullivan. And one of the things that we're actually looking to do is trying to extract the practical aspects of those lessons and integrate them into our lives. So tonight, we have a very special guest, and his name is Zheng, and he is actually from Meta, and he's going to walk us through how artificial intelligence is going to impact our lives and how we can actually use it to augment what we're currently doing and where it's headed in the future. So we're going to start with Zheng giving about a 5-minute presentation, and then we'll move over to Zheng. And after that, we'll open it up for Q&A. So with that, Zheng, please.
Well, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I do a short presentation, just say why we even do this topic. Just at the end of the year, I suddenly, a friend shared an AI rendering, and it was quite fascinating. So I was playing with it a little bit. So this is what I got with just a click of button. And it's very amazing. I was so shocked because, the design basically on the left, the SketchUp model. But when you see the image on the right, that's what most clients will be attracted to. That's amazing of the AI rendering. And it's only the beauty of it is only take a few minutes and hardly any cost. What the big company used to be able to afford, the fancy rendering, now the small business can do. So I experiment more of my models, and I got different prompt and get different result. And this is amazing for small business like me. I can sell my design so much easier with all these fancy images. So I was pretty hooked by this amazing technology, what AI can bring to everybody. This is another project. This is my model, and this is different options with AI rendering. And it's pretty fascinating. And so then we had a ski trip. I met Zheng, my friend's husband, and he happened to work for Meta, and he shared some interesting idea about AI. And he take a picture of my husband and make very interesting images of different costume, different hair colors, and pretty interesting. And we also tried his, I think, Google Glass, and which can listen to music and take pictures. What do you see? It's just fascinating. And after the trip, on the way back from Oregon, so I bought this Meta, what do you call Meta Glass, whatever, VR.
MetaQuest.
And MetaQuest, yeah. And now I try to have SketchUp happen to offer this free version. You can actually connect to this MetaQuest. And I tried it, and the experience is fascinating because what you see on the 2D image, you actually can experience it in the space. And it's almost impossible to describe it unless you experience yourself. So I decided to let my client to experience it. So I try out. Actually, my son, Albert, you can see in the picture, he helped to set the whole thing up. Actually, I think it's amazing. The kids nowadays, they're so capable. He was able to figure out, I'll set it up, put in the model, and then tell my client what to do. and they all experience it walking through their building. They even walk through each other's building. It's very fascinating experience. And so at night, actually, my client's husband also worked for Meta, and he happened to have has one of the older version, and he ended up to show his dad after he got home, and so the whole family experienced the model walking through the house, and thinking about the potential that could bring, because you don't have to spend all the money to build it, then find out it's not what you want. This is the tip how I get to know this, and it was so fascinating. That's why I think it's so much opportunities, so much possibilities with AI, and everybody could benefit. That's why I invite Zheng, and he's graciously to offer his time to share his expert knowledge in this subject. So that's welcome Zheng to give us more information on this topic.
Great. Thanks for the intro. Let me share my screen. Okay. Okay. So, ooh. Oh, it's a full screen here. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks the organizer for inviting me here, and it's a great opportunity for me to share the exciting learnings from AI, and I'll just get started. So first, let me introduce myself. So I started my professional career in the United States about 11, 12 years ago. And then I first, in 2012, I joined Industrial Light and Magic in San Francisco. And I will work with a team of researchers to build a visual effects pipeline for the Star Wars episodes. And it's a film production industry. And then 1 year later, for family reason, I decided to move to Seattle. So I joined Microsoft, and I worked with the Microsoft 3D printing team, which was an incubation team at that time. So we developed a application called 3D Builder, which is an app allow you to build 3D model and apply textures and even print them out on your local 3D printers. And we supported a number of different manufacturers of the printers at the time. And then more recently, in 2018, I joined Meta in Redmond. So I work with the Meta Reality Labs, and specifically on computer vision and machine learning based hand tracking. So this allow us to, we already delivered this to MetaQuest headsets, and this allow the user to track the fully articulated hands, so you can interact with the virtual objects in the VR and AR. And yeah, it's shown in the picture below. So that's a quick intro. And then I'll just give an overview of the talk. And first, I'll go through some brief history of AI and machine learning. And secondly, I'll jump into computer vision and the applications of AI in this field. And also, I'll briefly touch the AI in natural language processing and self-supervised learning. And then I'll cover some topics in the latest emerging large language model and generative AI. And then lastly, we'll just discuss some impacts of AI in industry, work, and personal lives. So first of all, the history of AI can be traced back to more than half a century ago. And back then, when artificial intelligence, this word was birthed, it was born, it was very different than what we have today. So basically, at the time, it was starting like a basic searching algorithm, as shown on the right top picture as a maze. So basically, you just give a computer a maze, and you try to develop an algorithm to find out how to find out the route from the enter to the exit. And then it's basically just searching by backtracking, which means if you are stuck, right, you are encountering an obstacle or wall, and then you just back up and then choose something different. Basically, just exhaustively search all possibility. And then very similar application will be a chess playing. And then if you can remember, back in the early 80s, we had Nintendo console. There was some a chess playing game. Although the competition power was very limited, but they had a pretty smart chess program that average beginners can hardly beat the computer. They basically use a combinational search, right? They the search space for chess is much less than a game of Go. So it's possible for them just to for the AI or for the computer program to move forward 200 steps ahead of time, which is way beyond any human being, right? To think of, and they just find the most optimal solution. And then in the 80s, the AI also came into the field we call expert system. These are usually applied to very specific domain, like using a knowledge in that domain or some logical rules. And for example, at the time they had expert system to diagnose blood disease based on compound in your blood, and that was based on some percentage or the data doctor has put together ahead of time. And then the more recent era of the AI kind of started in the 1990s was because of the advancement in the silicon or in the chips. Based on the Moore's law, the computation power of the CPU doubled almost every 18 months. So this allowed people to build a much advanced computer like a Deep Blue from IBM. They can, when they play the chess game using this machine, it can actually advance 200 million steps per second, and that beats the top of the player, the champion in the world back then. And then it also came to something like a probability and decision theories, which just AI making some prediction based on the most likelihood of something, right? And then I won't cover too much. Then we can move forward. Okay, so the very interesting time of AI, I would call it the big bang of deep learning or modern AI, started from 2012. It started from a paper published by Alex with a bunch of other researchers at University of Toronto. So this AlexNet was a convolutional neural network designed to do image recognition. And then by the time when they published the paper, they won the competition by a large margin. By large, I mean something like a 20% higher than the previous score the neural network or AI has ever achieved, which is very close to human perception level. So what happened here is that AlexNet was a kind of revolutionary algorithm or architecture that allowed the people to train a very deep neural network using large amount of label data. So the way it works is by image recognition, human has to first provide millions of pictures of objects or animals and things in our life, like vehicles and cats and dogs, and label them. And then when they run through the training, the neural network will actually apply, a massive number of layers of filters, and they call the filters like convolutional filters. And then those filters initially they just produce random results. But because of we provide the ground truth label by the end, those errors can be back propagated to the filter and allow the neural network to learn, to train, and gradually it will predict more accurate results over the time. So after training this network for millions of iterations, the network is able to produce a very high rate of prediction on recognizing our objects, like for example shown here. So basically that's kind of a very typical example we call supervised learning. And then by supervision means human has to provide the ground truth data, to tell the AI or the neural network what the object is. And then it is widely applied to a lot of computer vision applications. And the first one is like face and gesture recognition. And then including hand gesture recognition we've been working on at Meta. So this has been widely adopted in some countries like China. They've been using the face recognition to bypass the check of the national ID when you board a train or plane. It's super accurate, like more than like 96% of accuracy. And then also it can be applied to autonomous driving for like a car which can recognize the objects on the street, like cars, pedestrians, bicycles, and other objects. And then thirdly, in some consumer electronics, for example, Zheng, this also enables some new input modality, right? And so you actually can tell the drone to follow a person, and then without using some command line or click some like using complicated UI to do so. It just track the person, and then the drone will fly and take a video footage, which is unimaginable several years ago. And then also this tech is coming to your smartphone and also Apple Watch. Like for example, you can use a pinch to take a picture, and while your phone is on a tripod, you don't have to let other people say, hey, hit the timer, like in the old school way, right? And then, and these days, the computer vision neural network is able to actually outperform a human level of perception. For example, the picture on the top right, this is a picture of Chihuahua and blueberry cookies or muffins. And then for me, it's pretty difficult for me to tell which one's which at the first guidance, but AI is able to produce this very accurately, classify those images. And then another category of machine learning is called reinforcement learning. So so far we talk about the supervised learning, which require a human to provide large amount of data and label data. That's quite expensive and also like labor intensive. You have to get the data ready. But this reinforced learning doesn't require you to label the data. But instead, it creates an intelligent agent that will learn and take actions in a dynamic environment to maximize the reward. You basically tell this agent, hey, what is the rule of the game and what is the reward and penalty based on the rules, and let the intelligent agent to learn. So here are two very interesting examples. The first one on the left-hand side was developed by OpenAI a couple of years ago. So this is a hide and seek game every child has played. And then the blue mans are the hiders, and then the right mans are the seekers. So they have several tools like boxes and also a ramp. So in the first couple hundred iterations, they just did random movements. But after millions of iterations, the hiders learn to utilize the blocks, and then they knew to lock the blocks and to block the entrance to the room so that the hiders, the seekers cannot get in. But the seekers also learn to make use of the ramp. They can actually jump on the ramp, jump over the wall, and get into the room. So as you can see, this reinforcement learning start with a very simple rule, but they can develop amazing intelligence, almost like a human. And then this is basically how we simulate the animal learning in the natural environment and how they can evolve, which is really fascinating. And then on the right-hand side is a physics-based simulation applied to a robot. Is to learn combat skills. This video is a bit long, but I can just basically go through some example like shown here. Okay, so I'll just let play while I talk. So essentially, this agent will learn how to stand, how to walk, and how to hit a target. But for the initial 100, maybe 1,000 iterations, they can barely stand. And then after keep training for like hours and hours using the hundreds of CPUs or GPUs, and then they eventually figure out how to run, how to hold their shield, and how to attack the object using their weapon. And then they became so good. Like even I think there are some examples. So when they, let's see, like they can hit this object, and then move to multiple directions. They can combat with each other, like multi-agent combats. Yeah. So basically, the speed of this this AI model can evolve is amazing. And then the skill level they can advance by this simulation is like they can basically achieve a 10 years of training skill as a human in 3 days, which is a lot faster than real human. Well, although this is a simulation, right? And you can see they are pretty resilient to perturbation, like you poke it or give some obstacles and all that. So yeah, I think this is pretty amazing because this agent has demonstrated the ability to learn, adapting to this environment, obstacles, learn the skills and then to even like achieve a very higher level of perfection when they try, learn this combat skill. And then yeah, it's how do I go to the next slide? Okay, good. And there are also some other applications of reinforcement learning. So the first one's like robotics, very similar to what we saw in a simulation, but this apply in the real world. And then in the assembly line, and they can be given some target or the goals to optimize for, such as accuracy, some quantity, and error ratio. And so this robotics can keep tuning their algorithm or the model to perform better. And then also in inventory management, here at the bottom here is a picture of showing in Amazon inventory, they can have this robot to move the shelf of goods around and which speed up the delivery and also like a restocking and stuff. And then and thirdly, we kind of briefly talk about autonomous driving. So the problem of using like supervised learning, which require providing a large amount of data to train such model, is that you can not cover unlimited scenarios. So this in reinforcement learning will allow the AI to learn based on the changing environment, to learn from the new signals they observed in the traffic, and then just by given clear goals like maintaining speed or avoid collision. So this is also fascinating, like a step beyond just giving the data to train this model. Okay, and the large and natural language processing. So when the deep learning kind of came to attention by researchers in like 2012, people very quickly try to apply this to translator, like try to process human language using a neural network. And then they also found like, hey, if I let the AI see some review comments of my like say my items on Amazon or the ratings for my restaurant, how can I get a quick way to say whether that's a good review, positive or negative, right? Based on the text. So this natural language processing kind of emerge to do the task like this. And then this is the human language somehow is different than the input of the given image and do some classification, tell what object in it. It's a sequential data. So which means every sentence will contain a number of words, and a paragraph will contain a number of sentences. So you cannot just derive your prediction or AI make some determination based on a single or multiple, just small number of tokens. The input is sequential. And then so this recurrent neural network designed to handle the task, and they basically use some hidden state to memorize the context, which is the previous input, right? It makes sense because as a human, if you want to understand the conversation, you have to know the context and also what people have been talking about before the sentence to understand the entire conversation. And then, but there are also limitations. So by doing so, this required the model to always kind of limited by a time window, like by how long it can process the input length up to. And then based on the memory or computational power, this length is usually very, very limited. And then that being said, since it's sequential, it's also hard to train such model because we cannot parallelize. For example, in a sentence with 10 words, you have to process the word in order. So you basically have to memorize the previous answer, which you cannot just process like 10 words at the same time. So that means the training cannot be easily parallelized. And so here's a revolution. And as we all know, like ChatGPT came to the spotlight since like last year. So what made this revolution to happen is in 2017, Google published a paper called Attention is All You Need. The GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. You don't have to understand all this word, what they mean in this synchrony, but all you need to know is that this transformer architecture is a breakthrough. It's a self-attention mechanism that allow every element in the sequence, you can say every word in the sentence, to weigh on every other word. This is giving a huge change to how long the context could be, or how you can train this model to understand a large scale of conversation. And then also, very importantly, unlike the RNN we talked before, it can process all the words in parallel. So this basically unlock this AI model to be able to handle the large context up to like 8,000 tokens. Like you can translate to like 8,000 words, which is very, it's like several magnitudes higher than what we can do before with RNN. So, and this lead to the emerge of the larger language model. So basically they can increase the number of parameters in the transformer in order for the model to be able to process more complex languages. And then they found that they can be scaled very well. And as you increase number of parameters, they can basically be able to handle more complex queries and give you more complete answers in a lot of different fields. Like for example, ChatGPT-3, they actually had 175 billion parameters, but the next version, GPT-4, had 1.76 trillion parameters. That's a lot more. And then this has been applied to language translation, content creation, or question and answer system, etc. Surprisingly, and ChatGPT also was able to pass some exams in law and business school and achieve like better than average scores than human candidates. So led by this large language model, we are actually in the era of generative AI. So the language model like ChatGPT, this just opened the door like conversational AI. Instead of writing a program or scripts or making an application user have to click buttons, they can basically use natural language to ask AI questions and get answer back. So, and also this opened an opportunity to leverage the large language model to create contents from text to image or from text to video. And then also the same kind of technology and allow people to create they call text-to-speech engine, which they can convert the text into audio speech in multiple languages. And also they can create a music, doing composition with AI, and then it can be applied to photography and arts as well. We can go through some concrete examples later. So yeah, one of the interesting application of generative AI is developed by Stability.ai company in Silicon Valley, and then it's called Stable Diffusion. And then I've also tried this personally. I like it a lot. So those models are able to generate photorealistic images from text prompt. Like for example, and those images can have a diversified styles, and you can apply them style transfer from like photo to photograph to animation to paint and sketches. And then there are also like beside the open source version of the model, there are commercial services that make Journey and Dolly available. And here I show some pictures I just created recently, like this Spider-Man in Forbidden City, and then a kill squirrel holding a spear, and then the last one is an anime style girl with a city background, and then the third one actually is an image created by Midjourney. So as you can see, the images can be very, very realistic, and comparing to the images we can generate from a few years ago is like a day and night differences. And Zheng has briefly covered some application of stable diffusion in the field of design and architecture. So I can just basically go a little bit deeper. So what happened here is that this AI model can take an input of 2D sketch, like the one on the left, and then you add some text prompt, like say, hey, please render this house with some brown exterior, and then with a lawn and maybe with water and in a sunset. And then this AI is able to render this house using your 2D sketch and into the result in the middle, which is pretty amazing. Also, the third picture is like I can take a picture of our neighborhood, and then I was able to tell the model, hey, please convert this to Van Gogh style, and with a nice sky, and then applied. So as you can see, the result looks pretty appealing. I can see this becoming a very powerful tool for designer artists. And then besides like text to image, there are also companies working on text to video, which basically allow you to basically create a story, like storytelling video, just simply using text prompts. And one is from this example is from Pika AI. I'll just play. So the entire video has been generated by the AI model using text prompts. As you can see, it's pretty realistic and yeah. Okay, let's forward. Oops. Okay, yeah. So besides content creation, AI can also help us in other fields like medicine. So as we all know, like human body evolution is extremely slow. So the disease we have about 1,000 years ago, we're having the same disease for now, still. So, and the AI is pretty good at finding out the correlations between symptoms and do some diagnosis and making treatments. So all those connections are learnable. And then AI is very great at making educated predictions based on its knowledge it learned. So on the right-hand side, it's an example recently developed by Google. It's a conversational diagnostic AI called AMIE. You can basically ask the AI and provide your symptom by description, and AI will try to find out what the problem you may have and give you some medical suggestions. So this is just like a beginning, and also some other companies are applying AI to developing new drugs. And then I think in the future, we'll see this AI-based diagnosis being applied even more broadly. Like you basically need to provide biomedical exams, and then the AI can do most of the diagnosis for you before the doctors even talking to you, because the AI can be trained on top of a large number of cases, and also a huge amount of data, the patient data we had, so they can make even better prediction or diagnosis than human doctors. And secondly, on productivity, since Microsoft has been closely collaborating with OpenAI, and then they integrated the large language model into Office Suite very early. So this Microsoft, they call it Copilot. It basically allows you to draft documents based on ideas. You can save like hours in writing and sourcing your contents and editing. And then it also allows creators people to create a very beautiful slides with images and just using like simple text prompts. And then another interesting application is that they can also keep a record of meeting minutes when people talk. And if someone joins late during the meeting, the AI can just give a quick summary of what being said by all the attendants. So I found this feature is pretty amazing. And also, after the meeting, I can just generate the meeting minutes automatically. So in the field of software development, the AI has also been helping engineers to write better programs. For example, this GitHub Copilot, they can automatically complete code from snippets. You can just type a few statements, and AI will able to prompt for the statements follow afterwards. And then it can also help you to find bugs and give you suggestions. And another usage of this is if you are new to some certain programming language, you can ask AI, like for example, hey, how to write a loop in Python, like for example, right? How to use this data structure in C++. I think that's a great tutor. Sometimes much better than search engine can provide. And AI can also impact our personal lives in very interesting ways. Like for example, so the AI can be trained to master some specific skills. For example, like Meta has demoed providing some intelligent personal assistants, and they can be your sports trainer, trip advisor, chef, or translator. And then besides talking to these robots or AI agents on your phone, they can also enable these wearable devices. So the advantage of having this like some smart glasses, like Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, is that the glass see what you see. So you don't have to say, hey, I take a picture of a recipe and ask this chef AI how to make the meal. You can just look at the menu and recipes, like say, can you give me instructions how to cook this? Or even like if you travel to a different country, like China, and then you find that you cannot understand the menu in Chinese, and this AI can just hey, translate this menu in English, and it's gonna do that translation and then speak out the English version to you. I think that's pretty magical. And there's some recent advancement in robotics has also leveraged AI to do some really amazing housekeeping work. Like for example, this research from Stanford team has shown that AI is able to do very precise, like cleaning with a vacuum and making a coffee, and then put dishes, take dishes out of the dishwasher, play with cats, and then also do your laundry and stuff. It's quite amazing how precise the robots can perform those tasks. Okay. See. Okay, and also AI can be impactful in education. And first of all, other than human instructors, AI can provide a personalized tutoring at a scale. So basically, we all know that companies are leveraging AI to recommend ads based on your user preference and your search record or portfolio. Very similar, they can apply to your study record, and then the AI can help you to track your strengths and weakness, and then tailor the course or the material for you to move on to the next level. And then because AI is so scalable than individual instructors, so they can be applied to thousands of students and really help students to to help their school and their studies in a very personalized ways. And then also, like, since the advancement in natural language processing, like you can basically having a conversational interface, asking the AI questions without any programming language. You can any people, like from kids to adults, they can just ask any question they have to the AI and get answers back. So this is not limited to text. You can type your questions, and also you can just speak it out, and the AI can recognize your voice. And then you can even take a picture and say, hey, this is maybe a diagram of some from some math class, but I don't understand. AI can explain that to you. I think that's very, very convenient, and than just to try to describe something from using text sometimes. And plus, AI can be very rich resource of knowledge. and they can speak multiple languages. If you have tried the ChatGPT 4 with multi-language support, you understand, like it's really amazing how knowledgeable the models are these days. I know another example is like AI in entertainment industry. So on the right hand side, this video was a AI driven AI created actor, not a human, and then she could. Let me see if I can play. So before I tell you the truth, this is not real human. Probably most people think she is real human, but actually her appearance, her voice, her smell, all driven by AI. It's purely a virtual character. So as you can imagine, the AI can be really, really impactful in for the creators to leverage and create some virtual actors and then human actors and making some really creative contents. And also besides like creating like 2D videos and in a media format we are familiar with, AI can also create something in 3D, like you can view on in VR headset. So these pictures are two examples from a paper that they can use a text prompt to create a fascinating magic world and in anime style where you can actually walk in this world in VR. It's not a 2D picture, but because I cannot show you 3D, so it's actually a full 3D scene created by AI. Okay. Yeah, and AI and science. So, and recently I also read interesting news. Google Mind has developed a model to predict weather. So this model has been able to predict 10-day weather at an unprecedented accuracy in just 1 minute, under 1 minute. And then rather than using a supercomputer containing like thousands of CPUs, it can run on a desktop computer with a single GPU. And it outperforms the benchmark of the weather forecasting on 99.7 key metrics. Yeah, I thought this is also very fascinating and showing a very promising future in scientific computing with AI. Yeah, and then I'll briefly talk about AI on with the impact of AI on job market. A lot of people were concerned that the jobs being taken by AI because they can do so much. But I would say AI has its great advantages, and such as they're great at pattern recognition. Like they can make well-educated predictions and based on their knowledges. And rather than being scared by being the job opportunities replaced by AI, we should be thinking ahead of time, like what jobs might be replaced and what other jobs may be harder to replace. Like in the first category, I would say any routine jobs like following specific rules or based on like short-term knowledge, such as like cashier, customer service, or office assistant, they can probably be replaced by AI in the next few years. And then also the jobs require like repeatable physical skills acquired from training, such as driver, even some like chef or house cleaners can be replaced by AI. But there are jobs which are harder to be replaced. And the first category is the creative and artistic jobs, which require human imagination. And then, and secondly, and also the jobs like require like complex engineering and designs. Right now, I don't think AI can handle complex designs really well. And then and also thirdly, the professions require human interactions, such as like mental health counselor or some like human resources jobs. Like the AI can hardly replace a human being in that sense. Yeah, that's pretty much wraps up my talk. And any questions?
That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Zheng. Stop sharing your screen now. And folks, we'll open it up to questions. There is a lot that's been put on the table. I mean, how AI will impact our personal life, our home life, you know, how it could work with educational initiatives, as well as creating realistic videos and new content, and basically as well as different types of jobs that it may create or actually do away with. So these are all very practical things. So I'm excited actually to get this started. So first up is Mikey, and then will be followed by Zheng, or Mona, then Zheng, forgive me.
There's a lot of different implementations, and is there some mechanism for scoring the different kinds of implementations? I've looked at BARD, and I've looked at some of at several of them, the different versions of ChatGPT, and I've looked at Wolfram's implementation, which apparently is not the stock ChatGPT. Have you come up with and I know that that Meta is doing a lot of work, even though they've not made an offering. They've written papers. Is there a method that you've come across on how to evaluate the scoring of which one is better?
It's really hard to actually evaluate model performance given how much they can do. So initially, large language model like ChatGPT or Llama 2 developed by the Meta, they were aiming to be a model that can keep conversation going. By saying that, I mean the AI basically take the input from your question and give you answer based on everything he's learned from the text, like train him, right? And then we don't know like how the AI this model can solve like math questions, can give you even like medical advices, and can do so much. There will be different criteria to evaluate how well each model perform. Maybe like say ChatGPT can outperform other language model in terms of giving you some feedback on your essay writing, or help you to do some text editing, or do like a general search of their knowledge base to give you answers in the daily life. Or it's really hard to evaluate which one's better. It's basically depending on your specific requirements, mostly.
If I may do a follow-up, there's
Just briefly, thank you.
I do a brief follow-up.
Please.
The underlying thing is to create stubs out of neural nets. And the neural net itself is subject to global optimization versus local optimization, the training. It appears that Wolfram has come up with a solution to that somehow, and able to come up, but some of the others do get into hallucinations and hold into local minima. Can you say some words on either by prompts or by other method, or have anybody solved that problem generally, or it's a bunch of heuristics?
It is a very hard answer. You're totally right. The principle of training an AI to converge is to the goal is to optimize to achieve the global minimum, like globally optimal solution. But these days the models became so complex with so many layers, and it's really hard to kind of getting a deterministic answer by even giving the same input to the same model. Like, for example, the ChatGPT has a context, and then which means it can memorize the previous conversation it has built up with the specific user. So how would you define the most optimal based on the current context or a fresh conversation beginning from zero, right? It's really hard question to answer. I don't even think that there's a quantitative way to measure the, you know, like whether this answer is a global minima or local minima. It's really hard.
Thank you so much for that. So next up we have Mona.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I was really interested in this topic, and I was very careful to see if you're gonna bring up certain aspects, and you did. And for every wonderful thing that you mentioned here, I've got to say that I can think about 10 more that are disturbing to me. Like, for instance, for every wonderful thing that we can use AI for, there's going to be others that have potential for misuse. Specifically, like when I was thinking about the glasses, the meta glasses, I was thinking about, I'm a professor, right? I'm give exams, and then I just could just see my students during an exam just fixing their glasses on, and it's like, what can be done about this complex mathematical problem? And so this is, to me, this is disturbing. And even like, just take it even out of the classroom, like even just the fact that anything can be analyzed this way. Like if the data is out there, I'm out there, like I can be seen through the glasses. So I'm just, there's a lot that is wonderful, and then there's a lot that is disturbing to me. So that's what I wanted to bring up. Sorry.
Yeah, I totally understood your concern. I think you first brought up a privacy issue, and the meta glasses are so new, and also the category of smart glasses is so new. People haven't established rules on how to adapt this technology into our life to do good things rather than you know, using other people's data or images to abuse them, right? And then speaking of students leveraging the meta glasses, it's basically it's an interface to AI model. If they can ask the question how to solve this math question by looking at it, they can also take a picture using our phone, send that question to ChatGPT, and get answer back. The glasses is just like a more convenient media for them to get quicker answer. So I would say it's more like a calculator, right? In the early days when people first calculated, hey, that can solve all the equations or the calculus for me, and I don't need to learn. But no, you still have to do your own homework in a traditional way to learn things. But this tool can help you in a situation where you get stuck. You can almost treat it as an advanced tutor, like say, hey, maybe can you show me how to solve this problem when the teacher is now beside me, and then to get me unblocked, right? So I think understanding how to leverage and then establishing some disciplines, how to use them at school will be very, very important.
Thank you, Mona. We'll go to Zheng, and then we'll follow up with PG.
Yeah.
And,
So thanks, Zheng, for the fascinating presentation. So I have a couple questions because I got the ChatGPT 4.0, and I heard you can train it. Basically, you put a lot of information, and I tried it because my son just got this allergy test back with a lot of food sensitivity. So I type in all the sensitive food and ask them to create a meal plan, and they did a great job on that. I just wonder, like I have this idea, I can train like 3 assistants. One is for the architecture business, one is for the health, one is for exercise. I actually tried. I just wonder, so how do I train it? I was thinking, like how much time and knowledge, things you need to do. Like, for example, if I want to train them in the natural path, medical, or, health advice, can I just say, read through How Not to Die book? oh, do I have to input the whole book? I'm just curious, how much effort you need to train. I told my friend, I got so excited. She said, oh, it sounds a lot of work. I just wonder. Another question I have is like, it seems right now everything is prompt-based. It's like, I'm very graphic and visual. So like, I don't want to describe, I would rather sketch. But it seems like maybe there's other ways, later you can actually use a sketch to do it instead of like, you have to describe its words, which is, I think the writer will have more advantage writing the prompt than the graphic designer to write it's much easier for you to sketch it out than to write detailed descriptions.
Okay, so I'm afraid I cannot give you a definitive answer here. So, and I watched the ChatGPT keynotes and talk about customizing the GPTs for a specific area to have your own bots serving your need in very with expert knowledge. So how to do that? I think we should find out examples or tutorial from ChatGPT officially. But the general idea behind this is they'll always provide a large neural network backbone to serve as a baseline large language model they've trained and very well tuned for that. So, and then on top of that, you provide your domain-specific knowledge with the prompts and then some other data. So they can fine-tune this baseline model and then create a customized bot for you. But how easy that can be achieved, I don't know. Depending on how the tools they provide to you.
So thank you. So next up, I have PJ.
Thank you, and thank you, Zheng, for your introduction about the AI involvement, and also highlight the potential impact to human in relation to the job, the education, various things. Now, I don't have any particular question, but would rather share my observation about this AI development. And particularly, I would like to make such observation about the difference between human and AI. I think people are often, when talking about intelligence, we might also sometimes including the creativity side of things. In my view, there are very distinction between the intelligence and creativity. One is achieved through engaging our intellect. That's what intelligence is about. It is engaging through the intellect, the faculty we all human have. Now, on that sort of thing, there is no doubt AI will surpass a human, hands down. The reason very simple, because AI have almost unlimited resources. Well, it depends on the computing power and how much data has been fed and how much has been trained. Now, you are talking today is really highlight how actually we human can help to accelerate that sort of training. And so to me, because the AI can definitely surpass our humans' intelligence, individuals' intelligence. Therefore, the area that they can do better than human, or where the job can be impacted, is in a closed system, in a closed setting. It is in the place or the area, the application where all the rules can be clearly spelled, such as the game Go. Why human can never beat a AI in a game of Go? Because the rule is clearly defined. Where the rule is clearly defined, AI will take over a human's job, no doubt about that. And it's got nothing to do with the complexity. Now, the complexity will delay the AI to take over a job from human, but eventually the AI will be able to, simply because they have the vast energy. Now, why the energy is important, why the resource is important? Because we human, we want to get the knowledge through the intellect. We all feel we are exhausted because it requires the energy. Now, let me come down to the another part, the creativity. That's the main difference between AI and the human. Now, AI doesn't have the awareness. AI does not have a creativity at all. The impression we got about it can be creative, create pictures for you, random things. What it does is merely search the pattern, find the things already created by others. All it does is correlate. All it does to move together, merge it, seemingly like a new stuff, but it's really, in a way, it's like a plagiarism. We sometimes, we human do describe that as a creation, but in essence, it's not. It is simply mechanically put things together. It's not creativity. Creativity is about you come up something is totally new, out of the rule, out of the box, and AI cannot do that. I'm saying this not just based on my thinking, but actually my interaction by using the AI. And then I don't want to go to too much detail about this. So here is my observation. Thank you for your time.
Really quickly, so if I may interject just briefly, this is like an interesting question because this is something that we've talked about with a lot of the philosophies that we've covered here at 52 Living Ideas. And essentially what we're talking about here is essentially applied knowledge, applied information, which is not necessarily creativity, or it's not wisdom. It's not evaluated understanding. So I was wondering actually if you could talk a little bit about that. And specifically, because it's interesting, we went from a rules-based system with Deep Blue that you were talking about that was very linear, to a system that was nonlinear with AlexNet. And so that if you could talk about the impact of that and what that means in relation to the question that was just asked, how it is applied information. You can apply information from multiple domains, but it's not necessarily self-aware and evaluated understanding.
Yeah. So first of all, I agree to what Charles has said about the creativity and then learning the knowledge and making predictions based on the knowledge. So from the past, like the leap from Deep Blue to AlexNet was basically human was able to train a model and make it converge using large amount of data, using very deep neural network, which was mathematically not doable before. So, and this just opened the door of bringing more training data into the model and to have a large number of parameters in the model to achieve some really complex tasks in terms of optimization. So by the end of the day, the AI models trained with supervised learning, there are still algorithms try to optimize, try to reach optimal solution given the input. So in that sense, yes, it won't create anything out of the box. It's basically try to do some tasks really, really well, maybe better than human in very specific area. And then the area of the boom of the large language model, it kind of rewriting the picture a little bit. So I remember reading the debate between Yan LeCun, which is the chief scientist at Meta, versus the some scientists at OpenAI, is that some people believe they need a world model in order for human to truly understand what they are actually doing, the real context, the real to make meaningful prediction or meaningful decisions based on the input. Like the world model will be multimodal. Like for example, they will understand the text, the voice of people, the image, the environment, everything. And then the current way we see from ChatGPT, they are basically trained to make the most likely token based on the previous context. So you can say it's like it's simply a language model, but because of the large scale they have, people there was a statistic saying the ChatGPT 4 has almost exhausted pretty much all the text written by human in the universe. So they claim this language model is the world model because the human knowledge is embedded in our language. So I wouldn't say for sure the AI won't make breakthrough or creativity out of the box just because their training data is a fixed set of data. But there may be possibility that the AI can create some sparkle, like something novel from the knowledge they have been trained with. Yeah, I'm just saying it's possible.
So feel free to come back, Gigi, and ask a follow-up. Nick, you're next.
Thank you. Yeah, on the last comment there about the creativity, it seems to me I've read about situations where AI come up with solutions that nobody would imagine that they could come up with, which have been like out of the blue things, which you may or may not think about as creativity, but basically they come from the knowledge that people put the knowledge together in ways that people didn't expect. But I guess my question is about the long-term connectivity and the long-term sessions, as it were. It seems like there are issues when AI have sessions which go too long and they start doing things that are unexpected. But so what I'm looking at is I'm thinking in the future that they will not only need to have continuous sessions where the context may change and there may be new context added, but they would need to be one continuous session without having to restart in order to reset themselves. And there will also need to be taking in input and doing self-training on an ongoing basis. So what do you see as being necessary in order to let them do that or enable them to do that without going crazy?
Interesting AI safety question.
Yeah. I think it's quite kind of debatable how far AI can achieve the intelligence level by letting it to do self-evolution, like doing self-supervised learning. We as humans have invented a lot of neural network architectures and new ways to train the models, including like training language model, fine-tuning it, or even let a language model to play a game, giving some clear rules and defining some award and penalty. So I don't really know. Like this is really like off the edge question. We probably say today we are not seeing a threat of AI just advancing by itself and learning too quickly by giving access to the entire web, entire knowledge base from human. But maybe tomorrow or a couple of years later, some smart researcher came up with a method that they can somehow find a correlation between the knowledge and starting to master some skills or even like ways to create new knowledge based on what they learn surpass human. I don't really know. I'm just throwing wild guesses here.
It's
Thank you.
fair.
I did have like one more thought beyond that.
Please.
When people now are talking about having people making personal agents, right? And the I guess the essence of those is that they'll be limited in their context to specific functions, but won't they also have to be have to exist over a long period of time and not like reset every day? Or will it be just that they have some limited storage and they just get restarted and refer to that limited storage as their base of operations?
Are you talking about like a customized AI agents?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are two aspects of things. So in terms of static knowledge, imagine you train an agent specialized in cooking, and then it knows all maybe recipes from 10 different countries, and all those knowledges are static built in to this model. No matter when you ask it, it will know. But if you are saying, hey, I want to create or learn a specific recipe or cuisine, and then I start a conversation from yesterday, and then how does the AI know to keep track of my preference and or even my progress, and help to give more meaningful answers to my questions, not kind of restarting itself. I think it's come back to the same capacity, like limit, maybe more like their baseline model. If they can handle, say, maybe 10,000 tokens a day or something, or across several days, I think eventually you're going to run out of the limit. We cannot say, hey, any company cannot provide you unlimited length of context to all the customers they want to have, right? So I don't know, but imagine if you have.
Isn't that just a dollars and processing issue?
Sorry?
Not a technical issue, it's a business issue.
Yeah, I personally really haven't tried those GPT store and customizing the GPTs for so I don't really know how well they perform in that in this sense, like keeping the domain knowledge as well as keeping the context with each customer.
Yeah, and there's enough people doing it, I'm sure we'll find out in the next year or two.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your answers.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great back and forth. So with that, hang on, I just we had a lot of people. So Nick was last, and then we'll go with Tim, and followed by, I want to say Jeff. And I would like to ask a question. Tim?
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of this, but the large language model that OpenAI, which is not open about anything in particular, launched over a year ago, did spark an enormous wave of interest in what it was they were doing. And it's apparent now that with recent machinations going on at OpenAI, they're really about using capital in very large quantities to create structures built out of data largely pilfered from the internet, including copyrighted material, personal data, and just freely grabbing this and using pirated libraries of books. Books are very good for training large language models. And now they're saying, oh, we can't afford to pay the copyright holders for permission to use their copyrighted information. So now the New York Times has filed a pretty serious lawsuit against OpenAI and Microsoft. Now, OpenAI began its life maybe in 2015 or so as a not-for-profit corporation. And somewhere along the line, they got turned around, I think probably when Microsoft started waving billions of dollars at them and said, your board of directors, you guys should create a special niche organization called a limited for-profit corporation. And we will give you a lot of money. Right now, the take has been estimated at something around $10 billion. So in exchange for all of this money invested in the OpenAI limited for-profit organization, Microsoft has been given 75% of the stock in OpenAI. And if and when that $10 billion is ever returned or repaid to Microsoft, they will still own 49% of the stock of OpenAI. So the lawsuit is serious from the New York Times. A lot of writers, publishers, artists are going to watch this very carefully and see how it plays out. Most people, like you and I, if we buy books, we can certainly read the copyright notice inside the cover, or if it's an online version, we can read that too. And most copyrights have basically the same information saying that you can't reproduce or publish this thing without our permission, which means you've got to talk to them. If it's in whole or part, you may have to pay a little or a lot to do that. But the AI companies say, oh, we can't possibly pay for any of this. Well, it's a cost of doing business. And if you can't pay for the inputs to run your business, you should not be in that business. And this extends to other areas. Scale AI in San Francisco exploits labor in the developing world to supply annotated images for companies like OpenAI. So they let Scale AI basically go out and hire people in India, Kenya, the Philippines, other countries where people are desperate for work, and they look at these jobs as a way to lift themselves from poverty. But it's not really like building a factory somewhere in the Philippines or Kenya. These are operations that can pretty much switch where their factory is from Kenya to India in the blink of an eye. And these workers are treated poorly. They're sometimes not paid for the work they've done. Their pay rates can vary tremendously from project to project, and they can be dismissed for the slightest of reason and not paid for work they've already been done. So we see this as an exploitive situation from start to finish, where corporations are exploiting the third world for cheap labor, and now they're stealing copyrighted information and data from other people.
Tim, if you could actually wrap up and ask the question that you
have. The question is, regulations are evolving very slowly in the United States. Now, the Federal Trade Commission would be the likely source for promulgating regulations. In the EU, they've already written their regulation. It's called the EU AI Act, and it goes into operation this year. The Chinese have a very extensive list of regulations.
Tim,
why does the United States not have any regulations on AI corporations?
I'm afraid it's really hard question to answer. I mean, I'm a technical person, like working in the industry, and I do see the concern. You have valid concerns about privacy, about copyrights, about exporting human labors to achieve the annotated data and the training model. I think the one of the root cause of all this is because the AI or deep learning, it's been so new and it is advancing at a pace that human society has rarely seen. Such a evolution being so disruptive. It's innovative but also disruptive. So I do agree with you. The governments should work together to come up with the regulations and disciplines to make sure those rights are not violated. by the companies or any organization trying to train AI model. Like the data is not free, the copyrights are not free. So basically, there are rules in the existing world also applicable to the AI, to the tech. I think that's my take.
Yeah, there has been an executive order around AI safety, and they are talking about regulation. So, Jeff, you're up next.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank Tim for that, of course, not comprehensive, but nonetheless remarkably comprehensive presentation of issues in the evolution here and how it's playing out, and who knows what's going to happen. I have to say, I think it's going to be pretty difficult to get ahead of this, and it's going to be a lot of regulating, what is at the moment, without really being able to deal with what's coming next. A little bit like the history of the corporation and attempts of government to actually influence that. But I really appreciated that. So thank you so much for that. That was really well done. Zheng, I'd actually like to go to the very last slide that you had there. And because you just listed 3 areas where you think that it's unlikely, at least in the near term or maybe the foreseeable future, for AI to actually take over. I mean, it doesn't mean that AI couldn't be a huge assistant in those 3 areas. But if I remember correctly, they were creativity and solving complex problems, and the third one was human-to-human interaction. And of those 3, I could imagine that solving a complex problem might be the easiest of the 3. But that I'm interested in the way that you understand what creativity is. Why creativity is something that will be difficult for AI. And I'm somewhat of a student of creativity, and there are there's the notion that there are original things that people come up with, although that's fairly disputed, as that the things that feel original to a person are actually them combining many things in a particular way that they got from someplace else. And it's possible that the combination of those things might be unique, a little bit like Steve Jobs creating an iPhone. He didn't create anything that goes into an iPhone, but he's given credit for creating an iPhone because he put all those, from a phone to a screen to a database to all those things together in one place, camera. So the technical name for that kind of innovation is called recombinant innovation, where it's combining things in a unique way, which I've found to be a very useful thing to lean into and understand, because a tremendous amount of innovation and what seem to be original ideas are actually recombinant. And when you really get far enough into it, they are largely recombinant forms of innovation and invention. And then just this last one, why is human to human? I could offer a lot of ideas, but I'm interested in your thought. Why is human to human interaction a particularly difficult thing for AI to ultimately take on? When we get to, Chat GPT 7, why is that considered to be such a great challenge?
I think based on my experience of using ChatGPT, doing conversations in a lot of different topics, and it's been great answering my questions from its knowledge base, and sometimes it's even trying to invoke the conversation to make it more interesting. But I still feel it's lack of emotion, some really in instinct sense of human, like very unique sense of what that only human has. And for example, there are I don't know how to say this. Like there are several ways to say the same thing in different languages, but you can feel the tones. You know, you can feel the emotion of the speaker,
right.
and then those subtle difference. So far, I don't think it can be easily learned by the AI model, and also it's really hard to train that to say optimize your conversation based on the user's emotion at this moment. I don't think that's possible right now.
I would agree with that. And one of the things that folks on in this group know about me is that my I have very high regard, you know, for intellectual creativity and intellectual critical thinking. But I think that what's more likely to destroy the human race, if that happens, is more of an emotional intelligence challenge than it is, you know, intellectual technology. There's a lot of really, really smart people who are hugely emotionally troubled. and it's their emotional troubles that could end up being the end of the human race more than their intellectual prowess. And so you know, I find myself often trying to remind people of that our ability to relate to each other in ways that are you know, productive and allow us to keep moving forward together are even more important than some of those other things, as important, as essential as those other things are. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have a number of hands up. Some people have been able to ask a question already. I'm going to give preference to people that had not asked a question already. So yes, Bob, I do see you. And so from here, we're going to go with Evanique first. And then we'll come to, actually, you know what? Charles has been putting things in the chat, and he has put a couple questions in there. I'm going to let him unmute first. Then we'll go to Evanique. Then we'll go to Penny. And then I would like to ask a question, and Robert as well. So, and I ask that everybody keep their questions somewhat brief, because I want to be respectful of Zheng's time.
Okay, yeah. So my turn.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. So thank you so much for the presentation. So regarding the 3 different types of jobs listed, I do have some questions regarding the more complex tasks that wouldn't get necessarily completely replaced. But I'm kind of wondering with that, because you could see massive increase in productivity for some of the complex tasks, then in theory, for a lot of these tasks, there is not demand for these tasks that are not completely elastic, that you could see greatly reduce the labor demand. So for example, take legal profession, for example, you know, because even before AI, there's a lot of outsourcing of like paralegal jobs and those type of things, lower legal work to lower wage countries such as India. And what you see is that for the top law firms, the top lawyers, they're still making tremendous amounts of money, maybe even more so because they're paying their assistants less. But you see a huge drop off in demand for, you know, decent salaried lawyers in the West. So could the same thing happen to AI for even the complex jobs that you mentioned? That's my first question. My second question regarding how familiar or adept do you recommend us to get when it comes to AI for mostly generalists? So for example, they used to recommend to learn programming, Python, those type of things. But if the LLMs are making it so that we can basically put in a prompt without having to invest the time to learn these things, then maybe some of these learning would be unnecessary. So I'm kind of asking from a forward-looking perspective, where do you suggest most people to learn when it comes to AI so that they can fully leverage these skills without over-investing in time? Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Great. Yeah, those are great questions. So first question regarding AI achieving or replacing more complex human tasks. And then depending on how we define the complexity, and maybe a more appropriate word for this would be creativity or innovative challenges. Like for example, like a legal like lawyers or some even like realtors, which there are people who work more like a professional. They try to help the clients in a way that they've been trained for that area. But if the rules are clearly defined, no matter how large the search space or the knowledge base in that domain is, I think it's learnable by AI. So yeah, I'm saying like maybe legal consultants, consulting, or even some like medical diagnosis that can be replaced. You can say those are complex jobs, yes, but those are not necessarily innovative. But so the ones I'm referring more like taking software engineer as one example. So far, the large language model has been able to do a really good job solving programming questions like writing a function or writing a couple of functions to achieve a certain algorithm to get an input and output. But in terms of design an entire system with user interaction, with the scalability and with the backend design, and have to, there are so many factors that the AI just cannot say, hey, I want to converge to a global optimal solution based on your requirements. It's just impossible for now. I mean, the human being is very good at making leaps on their mind, like saying think things out of the box, and try to kind of bring different factors together, achieving something really innovative. And then for that, I don't think AI can be easily achieved by AI. So
Jen, do you mind if I provide a quick clarification? So what I was alluding to was more, rather than a complete replacement like you mentioned, is that, we're talking about how for a lot of these complex professions, we're using AI as an assistant that's going to boost our productivity. So it's more an economic question rather than a technical question. So technically it's not feasible for complete replacement, but suppose with AI assistance, it makes, let's say, the top programmers 2x, 3x as productive. Then if you scale that up across 1,000 top programmers, then looking at the overall demand picture for top programming, then conceivably you could see that, okay, Google actually doesn't need as many top programmers, or it's also going to impact the next level down in terms of economics. That's kind of more I'm alluding to. I don't know if you also kind of see the same picture.
But yeah, I mean, and so we want to keep it moving here, but that is the next.
Can I jump in very quickly? Actually, I was thinking about that question. I think, right now, most people, programmer working like infrastructure, like Microsoft, Amazon, but I see more and more software people actually move into the real field, like Target, Walmart. I know a lot of IT people. I think that you said, they may need a lot of people work in the IT specialized programming field, but it will apply in bigger, more wider, industrial, become more applicable. So I think it's not like because this job is fixed in this area, but I think everybody, include my kids, I tell them you need to learn programming, understand computer, but also you need to learn another domain knowledge in any industry. So in every field, you will need programming and AI as a tool to assist in this specific field. I think there is a big, so like a city, you build all the road, like the internet, infrastructure, AI, but then you still need to build a house. There's all different kind of like industry need further development with this development in technology. That's my understanding.
Yeah, new service models always evolve. So as well. So that's Penny, you're next. I'm sorry, does somebody have music? Oh, no.
I don't know who. I can hear it.
They could. I would very much appreciate it. It looks like. Thank you.
Yeah, Zheng, I just had a general question. As you know, you're talking about the industry and, things like, they created intelligent agents, and then they had like generative pre-trained transformers, and these have created jumps in what AI is able to do. And I was just curious, and I know they mentioned some names like Microsoft and Google. Is this a pretty limited industry where there's a few players that are really able to dominate? Or is it not very capital intensive or something, so that a couple people like in their garage can come up with a great new AI system? Or do you need to have so much computing technology, et cetera? We're really going to be, it's going to be dominated just by a couple players.
Yeah, great question. First, I have to apologize. My son is having a piano lesson online over there. That's where the music comes from. So maybe I can bring my laptop to the basement somewhere, and then
I somewhat deal with that, so it's fine.
Okay. I'll try to answer this.
If it's bothering you, and if it's bothering you, then
I
absolutely.
think, do you have like a speaker or earphone? I think that may help.
I do. Just give me one moment.
Great. That is a great question, Penny. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah. If I want to use this time to talk about, there's a very interesting article about, everybody knows about this Alex, who's the CEO of the AI. They're talking about the nonprofit. Then, I think the scientist behind the whole AI thing from Toronto, he's totally against it's become a profit, and he's deeply concerned about the dangers. But then Alex as CEO and all the other people who have Microsoft have benefit from it, they kind of like, and actually the guy was pushed Alex out from the board, with the boards, but because there's so many companies can benefit from this profitable from this AI. So then in the end, Alex come back. So I think there's a big battle between the scientists behind the AI who really care about, the safety of the general human, and also the nonprofit, the benefit of everyone. But then there's also the other side is a capital driven, company who invest a lot in this and really want to see the payback.
Okay.
We don't know where the end up be.
Good. And Zheng's back so he can answer Penny's question.
So I hope the music is not that disturbing anymore. I just switched to this.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, by far, if you see the big players on the table, they are like the Meta, Microsoft, Google, who own a large number of compute resources in terms of the computational power to train an AI model. And then I'm not saying they're dominating the market these days. So I also see a trend of open sourcing their model to allow people to build applications on top of those. So Meta has been doing a great job in opening up their large language model like Llama on GitHub, and then people can basically take that either directly, using that to serve something like similar to ChatGPT, or you can fine tune it by putting your domain-specific knowledge on top of that and making the model to be a customized robot and to help your specific task. So I think the future will be something combined. So it will be commercial side of state-of-the-art services powered by those big companies, but also the open source community will be able to leverage what's existing over there to catch up.
Thank you.
So next up, we're going to have Robert, and then I'm going to ask a question because I haven't had a chance yet, and I have quite a few, so I would like to.
Okay, that's me, right? I wanted to comment on the capability for creativity, because that was discussed a little bit. I have a couple of approaches. The simpler one is I read somewhere that perhaps AI is equivalent to a person with 155 IQ. You can buy that or not, but 155 it beats most of us. But it has its limit. There are people who are creative who go way beyond that 180. Say, like for example, Leonardo, Einstein, Newton. They have created things that are beyond the current capability of AI, in my opinion. Now the question is why. I could say it this way. If you consider the data input that AI currently has, I don't know what you would number you would assign to it in the trillions, quadrillions, or whatever, the amount of input that it has. Well, the world is much more refined than even that. And if you think about what Einstein came up with, he came up with something very special. Now, so it's quite possible that AI is currently not able to, or would not even be motivated to come up with what Einstein came up with. And now you also brought up the subject of people interacting with each other. How is that phrased? Why is it so difficult to do that? I forgot how you put it. You guys put it. I hope Jeff is listening. And anyway, my answer to my suggestion to that is that, well, each individual person has a great deal of special interest. Let's say I'm interested in traveling to a special country, and that is, and I don't say, and I don't voice that. If somebody talks to me, how are they going to find out that well, you see what I mean? I might have a very detailed, knowing me is good. Knowing two people is very complex. Having two people interact with each other is going to be even more complex. And I believe that AI is currently, there's another thing. If you want to know somebody, there's certain private, AI is not allowed to accumulate all the knowledge about stuff. It's censored, right? It's privileged information. So you can't, if somebody's going to interact with me, what I am is not stored with AI. So that's the difficulty, and that's my answer to creativity. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. That's a really good point. So so basically, regarding the human-human interaction, I think as human, we really value the meaningful connections between individuals, between families and friends. And then as the AI, they can probably conquer the language barrier. They can be a translator. They can be an advisor. They can be an expert, answer your question. But they don't really understand emotions, right? The very subtle feeling of individual. And also you talk about the things maybe only your loved ones will know about you, the other side of you, right? The inner part of you. I think once we touch those, the AI is far from being human comprehension in that sense. Yeah.
So I'm going to take an opportunity here to pick your brain here, Zheng. You know, it's been a fantastic meeting. You know, one of the things that you went into pretty deeply was this idea of reinforcement learning, and it's a very important concept to understand when we're talking about AI. And one of the difficulties that I've been reading about is this balance between the exploitation and the exploration problem, as to when it should actually, AI ought to take try something new. So it's a balance, and the reason why it kind of gets to the creativity aspect of things, if you think about it in the terms of, you know, if you know, imagine it if it's trying, I don't know, to solve a new problem, and when does it decide to actually try something new, and when does it not, and how does that exactly work? And so I know that that's a balance, because when I'm often asked about AI, I think about it in terms of AI is something that maybe starts with a process and comes up with an end. And I think of humans as somebody that starts with an end and comes up and basically goes towards that end, but makes a lot of mistakes in between those two points. And in those mistakes is creativity and new discovery and all those things. So this exploration versus exploitation problem is of great interest to me, because when you're talking about reinforcement learning, this is essentially where you're kind of seeing a new set of ideas actually come from the machine. But how does it make that decision? How do you create even something that is that's going to make an optimal, or I guess it can't be optimal, but how do you even approach that problem?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I'm not an expert on reinforcement learning. I haven't created any reinforcement learning model by myself. But based on the papers and the advancements I've recently studied, you are right that in comparing to other AI models require data to train, and reinforcement learning is a very different animal here. So basically, it's given a set of rules and a clear definition of rewards and penalties, and then AI has surpassed human in a lot of tasks require strategy. Like for example, some game like strategic games that require you to follow your plan and then to allocate your resource and to compete with other teams. Like AI has achieved some amazing scores. And even in like a chat play, like AlphaGo, they can play something which human master player have never seen. And in that sense, I think it's a form of creativity, right? And then, but to what extent AI can be trained to keep evolving by its own, given its environment, given the rules of the game, and given the search space, how many actions he can take to achieve those goals. I think that's a very interesting problem. So I think also debatable whether this will be, there are AI's advantages, or we should actually study it better to make sure it doesn't do harmful things. Like in another word, the AI can evolve itself maybe by reinforcement learning. And yeah, we can touch base on the topic later on. Like it's very interesting to explore further.
I think it's a really interesting problem. So we have several hands up now. So you know what, Zheng, why don't you go ahead and ask your question? You've been waiting quite a while, and then we'll follow up with.
I think somebody else can ask first. I can wait a little bit.
Are you sure? Okay. Is it Elena with iPhone 1225?
Good evening, everyone, and
We're really not hearing you well.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
You can. Okay. I'll speak slowly. I joined and thank you for the
You're breaking up again. I'm sorry. It may be.
Let me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's odd. You're clear as day right now, but let's hope it holds.
If there is interference. My question is, what do you think about a future of money and the ability of AI to solve anything related, for instance, the hash and cryptocurrency? It's going to be like giving a fifth grader an equation of 2 multiplied by 2. So it's all the security that's now in place in banking and finance, it's going to be nothing for AI. So what do you think is going to happen? Like, what's your vision for the money?
Zheng, did you
Thank
actually get that? If you didn't, and then I can ask her to put it in the chat.
Yeah, I kind of lost her after a related area. Like there are some cryptocurrency and.
I'm very sorry, Elena, but we really did have difficulty in hearing you. So if you could actually put the question in the chat, it will be read. Go ahead, Zheng.
Yeah, so actually, my question is, I think this AI exists, which I personally think it gave us a lot of opportunities. One is free people from the boring jobs. And we have this meetup about Ikigai, about, how you integrate the things you love to do, you're good at, what can serve other people who can pay you, and I got a job I love, mostly I feel I'm lucky. I think Zheng too, but I know people who hate their jobs. Those repetitive jobs, I don't think most people will not enjoy it unless people are really into mastery, like people could enjoy sweeping the floor in a very artistic way, or they cutting the beef, they're cutting a cow in Chinese literature. They can enjoy the whole process because it's very artistic. But most people don't enjoy what they're doing just to make money. I think AI is a great solution for people to free from those boring things, and maybe people get universal pay to get basic living. And then it also brings us back to the essential question: what's creativity, like we were discussing? What is humanly unique, like human connections? Those actually will, we used to spend so much time on think about the craft, because it's so important, because about animation, you can have this concept, but you take years to learn this programming and to be able to make it. Now you can just tell them, they make it in an instantly. So I think we don't need to spend so much time to learn this technique or craft. We can focus more on the ideas, which I think is very it's very lucky for the generation of us, because it's more interesting part of the human mind, to my opinion. So, that's what I said. What do you think? I think it's really a time for us to ask what's really unique to human, that make us different from AI.
Yeah, so I think you brought a really interesting topic. I totally agree with you. Like the emerging of AI can free a lot of people from boring tasks and cut off a lot of labor force in repetitive tasks, and then so that free human to do more meaningful work. But in reality, there are sometimes a misalignment from what you hope and what's actually going to happen. So a lot of things were driven by profit or business interest. And what may happen, just my guess, is that when a company can cut their labors by 20–30% because of AI, they will try to save the money. They basically won't care about how the other people being laid off will survive, right? So it comes back to the society. Like maybe in the long run, like we can totally see the value of the AI. The society can run in a different model, such that there are people who can provide values by emotional, like for example, providing connections between individuals, providing emotional values to other humans, and that's how job AI can replace. But there will be people like, hey, they cannot compete with AI directly, but they will be learning and be trained to make AI better. And there are some fields called prompts engineering. That means they just create better prompts and to train the large language model or to fine tune the model to make them smarter. I don't know whether it's a good thing or not or bad, but I think there will be a focus of roles or jobs that from our current way of running a society to a more like leveraging AI, how to leverage but not abuse them, right? It's open discussion. I don't know the future, but it's very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. So we're coming up on the 10 o'clock mark, and you know, I want to be respectful of Zheng's time, and so if there are any other, I don't see, I mean, there are people that did have their hands up, but that lowered their hands. So, you know, we'll go ahead and actually close out the meetup. But I want to take the time to thank Zheng for spending this time with us, presenting, you know, on this topic, specifically giving us a really good background and foundation as to where this is headed, and even where the industry is headed. I did have some follow-up questions that I really wish I'd have been able to ask, but I'm sure everybody else did as well. But this has been a really special Design Your Life meetup. And if you ever are able to possibly join us again, you'd be most welcome, and it would be really, really an honor to have you back. So, you know, I very much appreciate it. It was a lot of work, and you really answered a lot of I think a lot of important questions, and you gave people clarity that they didn't have before this meetup. So again, thank you again, and hopefully you'll be gracious enough to join us again. So I'm going to move to just announcing some of the upcoming meetups that we have coming up this weekend. And tomorrow we have Asian Philosophies, the Spirit of Chinese Philosophy. That's being led by Jason. That is actually a part of the Asian Philosophies group. That is at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I believe 2 p.m. Yes, on the West Coast. And on Sunday night, we have Systems and Bucky Fuller by Kurt McNamara, who is a systems designer, and that will begin at 9 o'clock. He'll be focusing on bottom-up and top-down approaches to design, which is actually really interesting, because I think sometimes we forget. We usually try things from top down, and it doesn't work always. It doesn't always work so well, especially organizationally. And then on Monday, we have Poetic Mondays with Maritza. And on Tuesday, we will have the Tao Te Ching, and that will be, I think it's we're starting with verse 42, which is actually one of the most important verses in the Tao Te Ching. So that's would be a good one to be able to attend. And then Wednesday we have Sanjay with Neuroscience Wednesdays, and Thursday we have What is the Meaning of Leonardo da Vinci's Virgin of the Rocks. Srikant had mentioned that he wanted to focus a little bit more on the arts, the visual arts, and this is part of his doing that. So with that, again, thank you so much, Chung, and Zheng, thank you so much for bringing Chung to us. I think that this is was a really great meetup, and there's so much more we could cover and talk about but maybe you'll be gracious enough to come back. So
yeah, thank you, Zheng. And I think this is the start of the conversation. In a year or two, I think we have very different conversation. Maybe we can come back to this topic.
Agreed. I
maybe
think
even
so.
sooner.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the things that that I kept reading is that, the conversation of the 2030s is going to be really where you see AI start to manifest, and you see the productivity gains, and to the point where some of the predictions that you're seeing now that are being that are pretty aggressive, that you'll likely see where people are freed up with a lot more time, but only time will tell. Integrating these new technologies, this is something that I wanted to go into as well. always takes a little bit more time than people predict. That goes to electricity or any new invention in history, even though this is a little bit faster, but still takes time. Well, thank you, everyone. And I hope to see you all during the
What happened to him? Okay, thank you, everyone. I think we can conclude
Thank
the
you,
meeting for
everyone.
now.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.